There are nights when the wind doesn't blow, yet the doors close on their own. Nights when the shadows seem longer, and the whispers don't come from anyone living. This is one of those nights. We'll be talking about events that happened this Halloween season. I am the Grimoire of the Twilight Cat. Get ready to open this chapter.
An Uber driver once told me that around this time of year, he had to drop off a passenger in an area called El Ranchito. It was very late at night, and everything had gone smoothly. Until at some point on one of the streets in El Ranchito, he said he was driving so fast to catch another ride that he was sure he had run over a huge black dog. He swore the car even jolted, as if he'd hit something, or like he'd gone over a speed bump, but that wasn't the case. He said he saw the animal, got out of the car to look for it, but never found anything under the vehicle. Still, he swore he'd heard the creature whimper. The only thing he found were small stains of a thick, dark, foul-smelling liquid on his clearly dented bumper. He didn't keep working that night, but to his dismay, when he got home and was getting ready for bed, he heard a pack of dogs howling from his backyard, howling and growling intensely. The neighbor's dogs were whining nonstop, and he couldn't sleep at all that night. Now, every once in a while, he sees large dogs on some corners. It doesn't matter what route he takes. He sees shadows chasing his car at high speed as soon as night falls. He feels hunted, watched. He's lost his peace. There's no way for him to really know, but he feels that whatever he hit that night is looking for revenge.
I'm from Goslar in the Harz Mountains, and there, when Walpurgis Night approaches, it's not just a celebration, it's a reminder that the pagan still lives among us. One night, just before April 30th, I went for a walk along a trail that borders the forest. It wasn't my first time, but that night, the air felt different. Not cold, just heavy, like it was harder to breathe. And then I heard it. Children's laughter. Not close, but not far either. Not joyful. It was mocking. I froze, trying to figure out where it was coming from, and then I saw it. A red glow between the trees. It wasn't fire or a lantern. It was as if the forest itself was glowing from within. And the most unsettling part, there was no one there, just that light and the laughter. I went home without saying a word, but the next day, 3 neighbors mentioned the same thing. One of them, who lives right across from the forest, said he saw small figures running among the trees. Another said that afternoon he heard what sounded like a train passing along the abandoned tracks, even though those tracks haven't worked for decades. And the strangest thing was, it all happened at the same hour. In Goslar, during Walpurgis, people say the witches return to dance in the mountains, that the bonfires lit that night aren't just symbolic, and that the fireballs seen over the old mines and paths are them, dancing, and that the children you hear in the forest aren't children, they're echoes, or souls trapped in those rituals. Since that night, every year when Walpurgis approaches, I close the curtains, not out of fear, but out of respect. Because there, in the hearts, the supernatural isn't a story, it's part of the landscape. If you're enjoying the stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. You can also send us your story at historyscat@gmail.com. Now then, let's continue.
I was 7 years old when my father took me to Bulgaria in October. We were going to visit my grandmother, who lived alone in an old apartment. She couldn't walk. She was always in her armchair, a blanket over her legs. They said it was an illness, but no one really talked about it. The room where I slept had a crib in the corner. Inside, there was a rag doll. Yarn hair, a light blue dress, eyes stitched with black thread. She wasn't ugly. She looked calm. My grandmother told me she'd always had her, that it was a lovely keepsake. The first night, I slept well. But on the second night, I woke up to a sound. Not loud, just a faint rustling like something moving inside the closet. My heart was pounding. I could only hide under the blanket and shake until I fell back asleep. The next morning, when I woke up, the doll was in my bed, right beside me. I didn't think much of it. I figured my grandmother had placed it there. I didn't say anything. That day was normal. We went out to eat, visited the park, saw some haunted houses, had dinner at home. But when night came, I felt afraid. I asked my father if I could sleep with him, but he said no, that Grandma would be sad if I didn't stay in the room she had prepared for me. In the middle of the night, I heard a noise coming from the doll's crib. It woke me up. The crib was empty. I got up and looked around the whole room. Nothing. I went back to bed. When I woke up again, the doll was back in its place. During breakfast, I asked my grandmother where she had gotten that doll. She told me her mother gave it to her when she was 8, that she had bought it from a traveling merchant. She started telling me more, but my father interrupted her. "That's enough, Mom." She laughed and said, "I just wanted to see how she'd react." That night was different. I woke up because I felt someone watching me. The doll was on the floor, right next to the bed, standing, not lying down, standing, as if it had gotten up on its own. I screamed as loud as I could and started crying. My dad came running into the room. The doll that had been standing a moment ago was now just lying on the floor. He picked me up and took me to sleep with him. He didn't ask anything, and I couldn't say a word. The next day, my father put the doll in a box and locked it in the closet. He didn't say anything. He just did it. That afternoon, while my grandmother was sleeping, I asked my father why he didn't want her to talk about the doll. He looked at me for a long time, silent. Then he told me he had a sister. She died when she was a child. That doll had been hers too. He never spoke of it again. Now, as an adult, there are things that don't add up. Like the fact that my grandmother never mentioned that sister, not once. No photos, no memories, just the doll. She later wanted to give it to me, saying she wanted it to be mine too, and that someday I should pass it down to my own grandchildren. When my father finally had it in his hands back in our city, he burned it in the grill. That doll burned for hours, and thick, dark smoke rose from it the whole time. Many years ago, when my sister was only 8, my mom, who at the time worked as a doctor at a children's hospital in Saltillo, Coahuila, invited her to a Mexican-themed party that was being held in the hospital's garden. Since my dad wasn't home and I didn't want to go, my mom thought my sister might get bored surrounded by adults, so she invited my cousin, who was the same age, so at least she'd have someone to play with. The party went on normally. Music, laughter, colorful lights, doctors chatting with each other. But on the other side of the garden, there was a playground completely in the dark. No one had turned on the lights because, why would they? There weren't any kids at the party, except for the two of them. Tired of sitting around, they asked my mom if they could go play for a while. She agreed, but warned them not to go too far. Barely 10 minutes later, they came running back, upset, their eyes watery. My mom asked what had happened. "The kids were bothering us," they said. The doctors at the table looked at each other. "What kids?" my mom asked. "The ones over there, by the playground." My mom frowned. "Girls, there are no other kids. You're the only ones here." My sister and my cousin fell silent. Then they started crying. Later, once they calmed down, they told us what they saw. While they were playing, they began to notice small shadows running around them between the swings and the slide. The shadows laughed, ran in circles, and then started throwing little rocks at them. "Hey, stop it!" they shouted. But the laughter continued. The footsteps on the gravel got closer and closer. Then my cousin, half joking, said to my sister, "Do you think someone might have died here?" At that exact moment, a rain of tiny stones fell on them from behind. They screamed and ran back to the party. The strange, or terrifying thing, is that both of them swear the shadows moved like real children. They could clearly hear the laughter, the footsteps, the sound of the stones hitting the ground. It wasn't their imagination.
I never thought Liverpool could feel so unfamiliar. I live in a terraced house in Wavertree with my 5-year-old son, Noah. Since his father left, I've learned to live with silence. But this silence, this one is different. It's as if the house breathes when night falls. It all started with a smell. A sweet, rotten scent, like wilted flowers mixed with damp soil. I first noticed it in Noah's room, right before putting him to bed. I thought it was mold, or something that had drifted in through the window. But the smell came back the next night, and the one after that, always late at night, especially around 3 a.m. Noah started talking in his sleep. He'd mumble words I didn't recognize. Sometimes he'd say, "the lady on the roof." Other times he'd just cry. One night, he woke me up screaming. He said there was a woman standing on the roof of the house across the street, that her face was covered by a black veil, that she was singing to him. I didn't see anything, but the smell was there, stronger, like something had been buried beneath the floor of our home. The days grew heavy. The lights flickered. The plants died for no reason. The walls seemed to sweat. I began noticing symbols drawn in ash in the corners, circles, spirals, letters that weren't letters. They said they were gifts, that the lady left them so we'd know she was near. One night, when I was washing dishes, I felt someone watching me. I turned toward the window. Nothing, but the reflection in the glass wasn't mine. It was taller, thinner, wearing a veil that moved as if it were breathing. I didn't dare move. I felt that if I did, something inside me would break. Since then, I haven't slept. I sit in the hallway at night, a kitchen knife in my hand, just listening. Sometimes I hear footsteps, not human ones, more like dragging, like someone walking barefoot over broken tiles. When I started digging into old stories, I found one about a witch named Morwenna, a woman who lived in the marshes of Lancashire, accused of stealing children on new moon nights, especially from September to October. They said she walked across rooftops, that her feet never touched the ground, that she left marks on doors, burned into the wood. The same marks I found in my house. Noah doesn't want to eat anymore. He says the lady talks to him, that she makes promises, that she tells him Mom can't protect you anymore, that she's coming for him soon. Last night, I saw her. Not directly, I saw her in the reflection of the turned-off TV. She was behind me, tall, still, with a veil that looked like it was made of smoke. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I felt that if I did, she would come inside. Today, Noah drew something. A figure with long arms, no face, surrounded by spirals. He told me it was his new mom, that she takes care of him when I'm asleep. I don't know how much longer I can take this. I've sealed the windows. I've put salt at the doors. I've prayed, but she's still here, in the reflections, on the rooftops, in the dreams. I need help. I don't know what to do anymore.
I hope you've enjoyed the stories from this grimoire. And remember, the video may end, but the echoes of these tales stay with you. Have a wonderful day, and when you go to bed, don't forget to turn off the light.